Ready for a knockdown dragout? Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch A124 taking on George T. Stagg. Two whiskey heavyweights with very notable flavor profiles, but only one can move forward. This isn't the head-to-head you've seen for the past 8 episodes. Tonight, we're going blind. No fluff, just proofy brown sippy stuff. Stick around and find out. It's the Cynple Whiskey Show. Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to day 9 of the 12 Days of Whiskey. I'm Cyncere, and tonight, 2 first-round champions are facing off. George T. Stagg and Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch A124. And this isn't the same bottle intro and sip from round 1. We're diving into round 2 with blacked out goggles on. I won't know which pour is which. We're going blind, baby. Sensory overload, judging solely off of nose, palate, finish. Good old-fashioned whiskey taste. That sounds like your kind of holiday fun. Go ahead and subscribe and smash that like button, and don't forget to turn on your notification bells to stay up to date on all things Cynple whiskey and to make sure that you don't miss out on the rest of the competition. Let's get to sipping. All right, let's start with A. Oh yeah, very, very rich. I get a super like a toasted oak note. I get a little bit of it's like a black cherry note as well when I go through this one. Overall, a decent nose. Let's see what we get on B. B smells like Booker's. Some sort of like a cinnamon spice, a little bit of a nuttier note. A little bit of caramel comes through on the finish, a little bit of citrus, but that nuttier note is what I get is the most prominent feature of this one. Let's go in for a sip on each. All right, so A. Super rich, almost tongue numbing, so that proof definitely comes through. It's like a strawberry note more so than a cherry note that I got the first time. Could be a little bit of a cherry. My tongue is finally starting to come back to life, but it's not overpoweringly proofy. It did stimulate the tongue a little bit though, based off of this being the first sip of the evening. That after note I get on this is like dark caramel with a little bit of some sort of like a rye spice maybe. I'm not sure if it's rye spice or just some sort of a baking spice, but it's sweet enough to me to be that spearminty rye spice that I usually say I get on ryes, but at the same note, it's not quite that, so I'm liking it. The finish is really smooth. They get like a little bit of a dark chocolate note, some sort of a fruit note as well. Long and lingering. Let's dive into B. Glass B. All right, so I definitely get that cinnamon note on this, maybe a little bit of nutmeg. As it warms my palate up, I get a little bit more of a caramel note on it as well. Not as much caramel as I got on A, but that cinnamon and nutmeg are the stars of the show for this one. And it does give me like a black peppery note as it dries out on the finish, but that caramel also comes through a lot more on the finish on this one. A little more subtle to me than what I got on A. I feel like this may be the lower proof of the two. I probably should have looked at all of that before I started. I was just excited to do another blind tasting. It's been a while. I've been doing such, here's A and here's B, but I know what they are versus, hey, honey, come down here and pour these up, mix them around, and let me get to sipping. Raw, real, and uncut, Cynple whiskey show. What could be better? Day 9 of the 12 Days of Whiskey. I'm gonna go back through them one more time and then pick a winner. So A. Again, super robust. That cherry note comes through. It's like a cherry cola, especially on the finish. Wow. Second time through, that finish is super cherry forward, super like black cherry or cherry cola forward. The roasted nuts I got, I don't get that as much the second go around. And that sweetness is just, it lingers on the finish. The sweetness definitely stays in there for quite a while. Let's give B a final sip. Yeah, that cinnamon still comes through pretty strong. As it dries out, I still get that peppery note on the back end of it. Super traditional bourbon notes in terms of a little bit of heat, especially given these are both higher proof whiskeys. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make a decision. I think I know what I wanna do, but man, it's gonna be close. This was a good matchup. Both of these are heavy hitters But of course, there can only be one victor. The runner-up tonight and going home, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch A124. So of course that means the Stagg is the winner tonight and moving on to the final 4 round, the New Year's Eve celebration kickoff. So Elijah Craig did bring that cinnamony note and a bold, fiery spice, but George T. Stagg's luxurious finish and the level of completeness that I got from this, even though it did numb the tongue on the first sip, it wasn't in a bad way. That was in a, okay, now you're drinking real whiskey type way. I'm not trying to take away from the Elijah Craig when I say that, but something about this one was just a lot more of a put together mouthfeel, put together palate, and put together finish as well. So hands down, I know that it was a little bit more difficult than I thought because again, when you don't know what they are, you start going back and forth and thinking, okay, which one do I think should win? Which one shouldn't win? But you don't know what they are. So at that point, you got to solely rely on, okay, which one would I prefer to drink night in and night out based off of what I'm getting tonight? So let's close this thing out. That wraps it up for the first match of round 2 with George T. Stagg making its way to the final 4 New Year's Eve kickoff for the Ultimate Pour 2024. And if you've enjoyed this matchup, don't forget to check out the rest of the 12 Days of Whiskey series. And I'll leave you with this. Blind tastings remind us of an important lesson. Sometimes it doesn't matter what the label says on it. It's about what's in the glass that counts. So here's to good whiskey, unexpected surprises, and keeping it simple. Cheers.